One of the most painful things you can watch on a job site is a contractor standing in front of a bright orange rust stain on monocouche render, holding a lance full of strong sodium hypochlorite. They hit it with a high percentage mix, expecting that orange streak to magically disappear the way red algae does, and instead, right before their eyes, the stain gets darker. It turns deep orange, almost a rusty brown black. And then they panic, right? They think, oh, it must need more chemical. So they hit it with pure, neat bleach, and they make it twice as bad. And the reason that happens comes down to basic chemistry that every single exterior cleaner needs to understand down to their bones. Sodium hypochlorite is an oxidizing agent. It works fantastically on organic growth. Algae, mold, lichen, moss, because it breaks down the organic biological cellular structure. But rust? Rust is already oxidized iron. It is iron oxide. It is an inorganic mineral deposit. So when you put bleach on rust, you are not breaking it down at all. You are actually driving the oxidation process further, locking that mineral stain right into the porous render or stone. To lift a mineral stain like rust, you need a completely different tool from your chemical shed. You need an acid, specifically oxalic acid. Now, how does oxalic acid actually work? It triggers what chemists call a double displacement reaction. When the oxalic acid hits that iron oxide, it transforms the insoluble rust into iron oxalate. And iron oxalate is a water-soluble salt. That is the magic key. It takes a stain that is bound to the stone and converts it into something that simply dissolves in water and rinses away cleanly. I learnt this lesson the hard way years ago, early on in my career. I had a job on a modern rendered wall where a metal bracket from an old wall light had rusted, leaving a nasty orange streak about 3 feet long down the K-rend. I spent 40 minutes putting stronger and stronger sodium hypochlorite mixes on it, wondering why on earth my soft wash mix was failing me. I didn't realise at the time that I was treating a mineral problem with an organic cure. The second I washed it down, let it dry, and applied a weak, warm solution of oxalic acid, boom! Within 2 minutes, the orange line completely faded away, without scrubbing, without pressure, and without damaging the render. That single job changed how I looked at exterior cleaning forever. You must diagnose whether a stain is organic biological growth or an inorganic mineral deposit before you ever touch a chemical valve on your rig. Now, when you apply oxalic acid, you have to follow a few simple practical parameters. First off, oxalic acid usually comes as dry white crystals. You want to dissolve those crystals into warm or hot water, typically around 50 to 100 grams per litre, depending on how heavy the rust is. Warm water helps the crystals dissolve completely, so you don't get undissolved grains scratching or settling. Second, always pre-wet the substrate with clean, fresh water first. If you apply oxalic acid directly to bone-dry, porous masonry or timber, the surface sucks the acid deep into the pores, and as it dries, it can leave white salt rings or cause uneven bleaching across the wall or driveway. Pre-wetting creates a moisture barrier, so the acid stays on the surface where the rust actually lives, letting the chemical do the work safely. Now this brings us to what I consider the single most dangerous mistake a soft washing contractor can make on site. Under no circumstances, ever, mix oxalic acid with sodium hypochlorite. Never combine them in a tank, never mix them in a bucket, and never ever run oxalic acid through a pump manifold or delivery hose that still has sodium hypochlorite inside it. When an acid like oxalic meets a strong sodium hypochlorite solution, it instantly neutralizes the bleach and off-gasses pure toxic chlorine gas. If you are standing next to a van tank or a small bucket when that reaction happens, you will inhale lethal fumes that can burn your lungs instantly. We see contractors on van rigs trying to shortcut jobs by pumping acid through their main soft wash lines without flushing them out first. That unrinsed manifold creates violent cross-contamination, destroys your equipment seals, and puts you and your crew in hospital. So how do you handle rust jobs safely on site? You treat oxalic acid as a completely separate process with dedicated equipment. Keep a dedicated, pump-up, acid-resistant sprayer specifically for your acids. Label it clearly so nobody grabs it by mistake. Before applying, put on proper personal protective equipment, eye protection, chemical-resistant gloves, and respiratory protection if you are spraying or mixing dry crystals. Always perform a test patch first in a hidden, inconspicuous spot. Why? Because oxalic acid can brighten stone or render. If you just spray a small spot right in the middle of a wall, you might end up with a bright, clean square that stands out against the rest of the dirty elevation. You want to feather the edges out gently with a soft brush or spray pattern so the treated area blends seamlessly into the surrounding surface. And pay close attention to surroundings. Rinse nearby glass, architectural metalwork and galvanized fittings with plenty of fresh water before and after spraying. Strong acid left on untreated glass or galvanized steel can etch the surface or leave permanent watermarks. Look, mastering these core principles, understanding pH chemistry, identifying stains accurately and controlling site risk is what separates a true professional soft washer from a casual splash and dash operator. It is about taking the guesswork out of the trade and replacing it with repeatable, reliable science that protects your health, protects your customer's property, and builds a profitable business. If you want to go deeper into surface diagnosis, COSH safety, and safe application protocols, check out the Softwash UK CPD certified Softwash training course over at softwashing.uk. We cover everything from chemistry to hands-on site management, so you can work with complete confidence every single day. Work safe, stay smart, and I will see you on the next one.